I am here. I am here. How are we doing today? Hopefully, you guys can hear me clearly. Um, Today marks the first weekend after I have been unemployed. And I have a bunch of mixed feelings. One of the biggest feelings I have at the moment is calmness. Like, I'm at ease, bruh. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm like really at ease. The first time I got laid off, I was like devastated, freaking out. But now I'm just at like there's a calmness around me. Like, I'm just very chill. I'm just like, okay, this happened. This thing occurred. I'm on the grander pastures. Beforehand, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, the first time I got laid off, I was freaking out because I put myself in a really awful financial situation where I didn't really have a safety net. I think now, because I have a little bit of a safety net, I feel a lot calmer, but also I'm just so happy to not be working there anymore. I'm happy to not be working at that job because it was really, really stressful. Like, I'm finding myself doing things that I would usually do at my job for like practice so that I get better at my skills, like on my free time. Oh my god, that Adidas. I don't like y'all seeing that Adidas there. Oh well. Oh well. I'm gonna be cleaning up the back of my background in a bit. Um my boyfriend has put his Marvel Legends and his collectibles in this display case that lights up with like dioramas and stuff, which I think is pretty cool. It'd be something I'd want to do if I was collecting anime figurines. Um, and he has this bookshelf that he usually puts his collectibles in sitting out here, and he said I could use it to store some of my books because I have some books down here. So yeah, it's just gonna be a little bit messy for a couple weeks. But hey, now that I'm unemployed, I don't have to worry. I do not have to worry about when I need to, if I have time to clean things up. Like, I don't have to worry about that. I could just clean up my whole house, do a very good deep clean. When I was working my job, I was just so stressed all the time, all the time. And like I said, I'm doing things now that I would normally do at my job just for practice because I just want to get good at my craft, and I'm enjoying myself. Um, I don't know. I just feel really relieved at my job. And I'm noticing that recruiters are reaching out to me, and that's always good. If recruiters are reaching out to me, that means that at least for my market, I'm not saying the job market in general, but like for my market, things are looking good. And that might be chalked up to me having enough work experience finally, because when I first got laid off, I didn't have enough work experience, but now I do. And then reaching out on LinkedIn, saying that I lost my job and I'm looking for some more work. You know, maybe things are working out in my favor this time around. But I do enjoy the relaxation, and I do enjoy not having to be stressed out so much, not having anxieties about work, and how I'm gonna perform and if I'm doing well. Like, I'm very, very happy that I can just kind of do this for a minute. It puts my mind at ease and at peace. So yeah, today we're gonna be talking about a myriad of things. I'm doing a Hey Exes, What's on Your Mind deck. Um, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I'm a little tired of Infinity Mickey, so I'm probably not gonna start this stream off with me playing some Infinity Mickey. I might play it later on, I might not. It just depends on who comes in. But we're gonna be talking about I think you have an eye, Cole. I think you have enough substitute YouTube full time. Girl, no, I don't. Why are you lying? Oh my god, I wish I did. But you know, work is working. Honestly, Cole, even if I did have enough subs to do YouTube full time and I was getting in those brand deals left and right and the algorithm was friendly to me and I had enough followers on TikTok and Instagram and Blue Sky, if I wanted to be on Blue Sky, dead assery, I would not do YouTube full time. And the reason why is because content creation is so volatile. I really have to. They say that in order for you to venture out on like a full-time career or entrepreneurship in like content creation, digital media, or any of that, you want to be making like double the amount that you usually make at your job. It's either double or like triple. YouTube is not like it used to be, or so, right? Yeah, it's not like what it used to be. Actually, put a pin in that because I'm going to talk about that right now. But you like, in order for you to do content creation full time or entrepreneurship full time, you'd have to, like, what you're currently making right now, it'd have to be triple the amount. And you'd have to factor that in, and you'd have to do a lot of budgeting to ensure that you will be good at least for like a couple months if things don't pan out the way they need to. A couple months to half a year, maybe. And so, with that in mind, and just with how volatile everything is right now on social media and on the internet, when I mean volatile, I mean like it's really, really hard to put yourself out there. The competition is hella steep and hella thick. And it just feels as if it's only going to get more difficult in the next couple years or so. And I think a lot of people are banking on the content creator economy. The creator economy is what they're calling it. Yeah. A lot of people are banking on that. And I think like back in the day, like when, I don't know, when like in the 90s maybe, and maybe like in the 80s, the dream was to be a professional athlete. Like that was everybody's dream. That was like every young kid's dream, to be the next Michael Jordan or something like that, right? And nowadays the dream for every young kid is to be a content creator. That's everybody's dream job. And there, I feel like there's a lot of overinvestment in the creator economy, and I just feel as if there's going to be, it's not going to be easy. Not everyone is going to be able to make it as a content creator, and not everyone has the chops to make it as a content creator. And you know, I don't want to like talk anybody out of creating content if they're interested, because you definitely should, but you really have to have a mindset of staying consistent. And you can't get in your own head. You can't overthink things. We're now in the age of authenticity, so you really have to be authentic and show up as your truest self on social media, while also playing that balance of, you know, boundaries, because you don't want to overshare, right? And then people perceive you in a way that you're not comfortable with, right? But people are looking for authenticity right now, and people are like content creators are struggling for brand deals with celebrities because everybody's so broke. Like nobody has money anymore. And so yeah, YouTube, gone are the days with like the crazy ass sponsorships that you would get up the wazoo in the 2010s, the golden age of YouTube. Gone are those days. It's not like that anymore. Everybody's struggling unless you're like Mr. Beast and making Mr. Beast type content. Everyone's struggling for brand deals. Everyone's struggling for opportunities and chances. So I say all of that to say that even if I did have enough subscribers to and subs to go full time on YouTube, even if I had a Patreon and the Patreon made more than enough for me to like support myself and live my life, I could not see myself quitting my full job, or any semblance of me quitting my full-time job in order to do YouTube or to be a content creator. I do want to be a content creator full-time, but I think what would happen is my full-time job would look more like a stream of income where I take on consulting rather than working at one company, giving it all of my time, effort, and energy, and making my own hours and all of that. So that's kind of how I would see my YouTube, Twitch streaming, content creator career looking like. It looked like I'd see myself in the future having like multiple streams of income, because you can't rely on anything. You can't put your eggs all in one basket, right? A lot of those incomes coming from social media and content creation. And then I would see myself using my skills from my full-time job as a stream of income, and doing consulting, but never really fully quitting my full-time job, because you always need a plan B. And I always tell everyone, like, I've been told this myself, and I've told my friends this, like, especially when it comes to creating content, you have to have a plan B. Like, that plan B has to be lined all the way up. Like, not just oh, I know a guy who knows a guy who can get me this. No, like, I bartend on the side, so if this content creation thing doesn't work out, I can still bartend, you know? Like, that plan B has to be, like, nifty and convenient and right in your pocket, right? That you can pull out anytime. And that's what I'm trying to get my full-time job to be. Honestly, you know, I see myself maybe, like, for the next, because I technically have, like, 5-ish years of experience, right? So I see myself maybe, like, a couple more years getting all the experience I can, hopefully moving into management if I even want to do that, because I'm not trying to work too hard at my full-time job. Like, I really am not. Like, I know this sounds awful, but, like, I'm not uber passionate about my career, and because it's not really what I want to do. I'm uber passionate about this, but I could see myself, you know, moving into consulting sooner rather than later, which is like a form or semblance of entrepreneurship. I've heard people who offer their services as an independent contractor to, like, big name clients, and they'll handle and manage, like, 3 or 4 clients at a time, and then they're making, like, a boatload of money while doing so. Just lending their skills and creating, like, a contract deal with them, which I think is really cool. So I might look into that. But yeah, I was talking with my friend the other day, and we were talking about how the 9-5 work structure is not reliable. And I've said this, like, so many times before on my platform, like, it's just not reliable. But, you know, so you have to have multiple things lined up, but the multiple things that you have lined up, like, my thing is, and I'm going to still harp on this, the average American citizen shouldn't have to work, like, 5 jobs in order to survive. Like, that should not be a thing. And then on top of that, they still want us to procreate and have children, even though there's no third spaces for children, and nobody can afford to raise a child, let alone themselves. Like, there's just so much shit going on, just so much shit in the world, and things are getting more and more unaffordable, and nothing is stable, and they want us to keep making more babies. And I just, and they want us to pretend like nothing is going on. You know, like, I find that funny. But anyway, we're gonna talk about a lot of stuff today. I have a musty deck with me today, and I really want to get into it. And then if we have some time afterwards, I'm gonna talk about, actually, I'm gonna get into some Marvel Rivals. Yeah. I'm really excited about Blade coming into Marvel Rivals. I think that's fun. Before I do get into my musty deck of the day, I want to talk about Sweeney, because she just dropped her song Bofum. That was suburban black kid core, sorry. Bofum, okay. She just dropped her music video, and I watched it, and, you know, one thing I will say about Sweeney is she does not let the hate get to her, and she does not let anybody bully her into things that she doesn't want to do. And, you know, you gotta respect a resilient queen, because Lord knows Miss Mams cannot rap with love. And everyone has been telling her since 2018, girl, please, just be an influencer. That's what you're good at. Just be an influencer. But one thing I will say in comparison to Ice Spice is that she's still here, and she's still consistent, and she's still grinding. And I don't know, I think it'll pan out in her favor one of these days. I remember her music video Nani that came out, and it looked like the Nani, not that Nani, like big Forever 21 music, right? Like big Forever 21 music. it looked like she was trying to get a Nicki Minaj feature from that. Like, she was trying to get something from that. Like, it was just such a change in tone from the music that she's done, and she's wearing the pink wig. I really feel like she was, like, hoping that Nicki would, like, support her or something. I don't know. I can't fuck with Nicki right now, low-key, though. Like, not that I ever really did. It's just, damn, Nicki is just such a disappointment and such a hypocrite. You know what I mean? And yeah, I don't know. You say she's still grinding before making any comments out about the video. Okay, so Cole says you saying she is still grinding before making any comments about the song video says it all. Yeah. I mean, it was not that good. See, I'm noticing that the women in hip hop, like the sound is changing, that the stakes are a lot higher. I think low key, like Doechii is probably like, okay, so her EP was pretty good and she won a Grammy for it. And people are buying her albums, right? I think that if she drops a next, like an actual like debut album and it does well, I feel like the standard of women in hip hop's gonna change. It's just that I don't know. I looked at the music video for both of them, and it just felt like this was repurposed aesthetics that I've already seen in the past 5 years from women in hip hop, like Cardi B and Lotto and Meg Thee Stallion. And it just feels like she's a little late. And I think at this point, like women in hip hop is about to transcend to, I don't know, a more like, I have a prediction it's going to transcend to a more like a commentary, like it makes you think. There's still going to be bops, but it's going to be more artsy fartsy. It's going to be more artistic, more whimsical. Lyricism is going to make you think a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit clever. People are going to care a lot more about your pen game as well as if you can make a hit, and like your artistry and how you're able to genre bend. I'm thinking of like Tyler the Creator, even though he's not a woman in hip hop, but he always like genre bends and he always has like really good taste and he just like drops shit and he doesn't really care. I'm also thinking about Doechii as well. Not a strong return, but yeah, she's up against some great female rappers. We have already chosen our favorite light-skinned MC, the club to Cole said, we have already chosen our favorite light-skinned MC, the club to pack now. Who is she? Is it Cardi B? It's probably Cardi B, right? Light-skinned MC? Yeah. And that's another thing. I'm still curious to see how this debut album's gonna pan out. 50% of me is like, this album's gonna be really good because the features are gonna carry. I predict that maybe Beyonce. Let's go to Cardi B real quickly. Sophomore album. I do predict that Beyonce is probably going to be on this album, and that's probably going to carry her a ton. In the same way that when Beyonce was on, a song with Nicki Minaj, and then was on a song with Megan Thee Stallion, that carried her as well. I do feel like Beyonce's going to be on this album. I feel like Sis is going to be on this album too. I feel like there's going to be a lot of features. I feel like the sound is going to sound very like it's going to sound very like it's going to sound like 2018 or what she would have dropped in like 2020 with the WAP and the Up era. It's not going to sound new, but I feel like those features are going to carry it. And also, I was listening to Charlamagne the God talk about women in hip hop and how Cardi B was really the only rapper willing to collab with other female rappers. Whether she felt like she had to in order to stay relevant or because she really wanted to, put other girls on. I'll let you decide. I feel like it's a little bit of both. But I do have to give Cardi B her kudos and her flowers for that, because Nicki Minaj was absolutely comfortable being the only one. And I think that's what kind of turned me off from her. I do believe that if Azalea Banks less problematic. Like if she was more like Doechii, Nikki would have competition and she wouldn't like that. And I'll say this till the cows come home, because I really am not fucking with Nikki anymore like that. Nikki got comfortable. She got comfortable and with being the only one and feeling like she didn't have to do too much because she had a legion of barbs, a legion of deranged fans who are living in delusion every single day trying to defend this woman, to actually get in the studio, get in the booth, take some dance classes, build a really, really strong stage presence. Because outside of her being Nicki Minaj, like you remember when she was at the Holiday Bash and it was a holiday Nicki Minaj festival. She was at a music festival and she had like this on, you know what I mean? She had like the blonde wig and it was this one. Remember this one? The holiday ball? And she just like, for everybody, she just like laid on her stomach and was like, body, body, body. Like just like awful, awful, awful performance and stage presence. It was embarrassing. And it's just like, girl, if you were not Nicki Minaj, you could not get away with this. Like, what are you doing? I guess I won't be able to find it, but it was like either she was like high as hell or I don't know, but no, it was the Jingle Ball. But like that was embarrassing. Like you're Nick, like you can't with all the women that are out in hip hop right now, you can't step out like that, right? Like, okay, so Cole is going off in the chat. She says, we have already chosen our favorite light skin MC, the Club Pack now, or Lotto for the others, Young MA for the studs. Okay, yeah, Lotto for the others. Yeah, Lotto's a good rapper. I don't like how people pick on Lotto a lot. They say that she's not good, she's not authentic. I think I like Lotto because she's from Clayton County, and when I first came to Atlanta, I was living in Clayton County, so I like that. Young MA for the studs. I love me some Young MA. I hope she's okay. I heard she was sick. Cardi for the bad girls, club viewers, Lotto for the mixed girls and white moms. Lotto for the mixed girls with white moms in Atlanta is dying. That is too specific, Cole. That is too specific, Cole. Then IDK, Alabama Barker. Okay. I got one hashtag FFFFF woman to talk about today. I am not going to talk about any others. Azealia Banks could have been a star. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, if she kept her mouth shut, if she moved more like Doechii, she would have been a star. But like, I love Azealia Banks when she's messy a little bit. Not when she's being mean, but when she's messy and she's like on point. And like, because who remembers the time when Azealia Banks got on here and absolutely clocked why Nicki was crashing out? And it had nothing to do with the hip hop girls and everything. Well, it had a little bit to do with the hip hop girls, but it had more to do with her not being a Roc Nation girly and feeling slighted by Roc Nation. I still feel like that's the reason why she's upset. Because she didn't get picked by Jay and Roc Nation. And that if she were a Roc Nation girly, which I feel like in order to work with a management company like Roc Nation, you have to have some sort of professionalism and coup. You can't, like, and that's the problem with Nicki. Nicki doesn't have a lot of professionalism. Like, she doesn't. Nicki got greedy. Lil' Kim said it on the Breakfast Club. Best on the Breakfast Club. Nicki got greedy, and then she got comfortable. That's the problem. Like, I'm okay with bitches that get greedy. Like, if you are greedy and you're, like, the best at what you do, okay. Like, Beyonce is a good example of, like, someone who is, like, was dominating the charts, to this day is still dominating. She might not be, like, a Billboard smash hit, but, like, she doesn't need to be because she's still dominating in other ways. You go to her to study how to be a good performer. You go to her for being able to balance vocal abilities with choreography. you go to her to understand how to make full bodies of work with music. So like but she was not able to be there by just like being like regular Beyonce. She had a whole team behind her. Jay-Z was married to her. Jay-Z was a businessman. It all kind of coexists in one another. That's why I say there'll probably never be another Beyonce because another Beyonce isn't just like that, like a singular artist like Beyonce, right? Like it's the team working behind her. It's Matthew Knowles managing her from when she was a kid. It's her mom like putting stakes in her business and investing in her daughter. Matthew Knowles instilling good work ethic and bringing on these girls into a girl group and then inevitably uplifting his daughter up. It's her getting married to Jay-Z. Yes, Jay-Z helps. Patriarchal structure, yes. Powerful man, getting with the powerful man. Beyonce would not be able to make the business moves that she makes without Jay-Z. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but yeah. And I'm gonna talk about it more because we're gonna be talking about Black pop girlies in my musty deck. But that's the problem, Cole, with that I feel like I have with Nicki Minaj. It's not just that she got greedy, it's that I feel like to an extent she got lazy and greedy. The last good music that she came out with was the Pink Print. Queen showed that she could rap pretty well, but it was a lot, and like I mean the production was okay. The bars were solid, but the production wasn't that good. Pink Print A2 wasn't that good. And then all the features in between, like Carrie, like she will give you a feature, right? But she got lazy and the performance aspect, you know what I mean? And sometimes in the songwriting aspect, high heels on my tippies. Dolce & Gabbana, that's on my like that's cute if you're like ad-libbing, but like, okay, good example. Going back to Sweetie real quick. Everybody remember when she came out with Now Rock. I forgot the name of the song, but at the when the beat dropped, she said something along the lines of, "And if he a dirty, throw his ass in the hamper." And it was like silent, and then they picked up the beat again. Like she dropped that line like it was hard, right? And everybody listened to it and like trolled her on TikTok. It was like, girl, this shit is not hard. Like that, if he a dirty, throw him in the hamper, girl, what? That's how I felt about high heels on my tippies. Like, that's not original. If Doja Cat said that, if Meg said that, y'all would be clowning them. And y'all are getting away with it because you're still thinking about diss track Nicki and Pink Friday 1 Nicki. And that's not, that Nicki isn't hungry anymore. She got comfortable. And so, my issue with her isn't that she got greedy, because I see girls that get greedy and then they like stay consistent, right? Like they stay consistent, they work hard, and honestly, like the industry is like super cutthroat, so like I wouldn't be surprised if some girls have a competitive nature about them. My problem with Nicki is that she got greedy and then got comfortable and then started crashing out instead of going in the booth, and that's my problem. When Megan Thee Stallion dropped Hiss, she dropped Bigfoot. And the bars will convince you that that is a great body of work. That's one of the greatest diss tracks out there. We'll even jump through hoops to say, oh, she's doing what Kanye West did with his whoopity poopity scoop. No, because that beef had to do with the production of whoopity poopity scoopity, right? And what's his face? Drake wanting that beat. And Kanye being like, no. And then trolling him by putting like bad lyrics on top of that beat. Like that was clever because Kanye produced that beat. Drake wanted it. Kanye was like, no, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna just shit on the beat, right? Literally shit on the beat. You know what I mean? And that was funny, right? And clever. But this, no, girl, no. Going on Twitter rants and being like, I'm so big and bad, I don't even have to give you a hard diss track. I can just do a Twitter rant. Girl, no. You need to clap back with a diss track. Kendrick Lamar v. Drake style. Like, that's what you need. That's what you need to do. And I think his probably blindsided her. She didn't see that coming. And she wasn't able to give what needed to be given around that time. And I think the veil lifted a little bit. You know, she had that video wiped. Are you serious, Cole? Nicki Minaj got the video wiped of Lil' Kim saying that she got greedy? See, and that's my problem. Again, that's my issue. It's like, you can't be the only one if you're not giving only one credentials. Okay? Like, you cannot be the only one if you are giving only one credentials. Hello? I'll say it one more time. You cannot be the only one if you aren't giving only one credentials. If you're literally on your stomach during a holiday ball festival because you feel like you deserve more because you're, I don't know, the greatest and the one, the only, the greatest, the queen of whatever the fuck, and you're on your stomach with a mic, body, you can't be the one and only because you got... Where's the performance? You got shit like this now, okay? And you got shit like this now. And then you got what you got stuff like this now. Like, the girls are giving performance. Cardi B, I still remember her Money performance. This was amazing. Like, you can't be on your stomach, body, but no, girl. No, you can't do that. Not when the girls are doing this. Not when the girls are giving performance and storytelling. Glorilla's performance at the BET Awards. Amazing. Like, had a beginning, middle, and an end, and a story, and Tiana Taylor's influence was all over that performance. And I will say that Nicki Minaj's Pink Friday 2 tour, like, it was like, the looks were cute, and the dancers were cute, and the stage was pretty dope. Like, I'm not gonna sit up here and be like, you know, it's okay. Like, no, the stage was pretty dope. The looks were cute. The little cowboy hat, you know what I mean? Her coming out of her little personas, like, that was cute, right? So I will give her that. And it seemed like she kind of had it together for this performance. So I'll give her that. But it's just the consistency of it all. Like, can you carry, like I remember Doja Cat, she was performing, like, doing a private performance for an event, and she had like a blonde Sabrina Carpenter wig and like a little shiny, like, one piece, and she was just performing. She was just going off, you know? Like, I don't know, I just feel like Nicki is too comfortable for where she's at. And it's like, over here competing with women that are like 10 years younger than her, and still, like, the music. See, the stage was pretty cool, so I'll give her that. And the music was like, it's like at like an amateurish level, you know? Like, we need to do some evolving. Beyonce paying Jay-Z. Okay, so let me read more of you, Cole. Okay, so Beyonce paying Jay-Z's dead now. Her knee's in jeopardy. Oh my God. Yeah, probably, because I heard Jay-Z's marijuana business did not do well. He came out with his own, like, cigar line, and that didn't do well. So that would make sense why she's, like, putting out all these things, like Sir Davis, the tour, Sacred. That checks. Hate that for my sister. Nah, the one where she's saying body. Oh, okay. So she didn't swipe the Lil' Kim video. She got that one swiped. That was embarrassing, though. Like, I'm glad she got that swipe, because that was embarrassing. But I don't think she actually did. Okay, okay. Well, I'm not trying to find out, but like, yeah. Anyway, um, kudos to Saweetie for staying consistent, and who knows what will become of this. I could see her like getting into reality TV and doing very well for herself in that lane. But if she still want to do this, if she still want to rap, she can rap. It'd be cool to see from like 10 years from now how she evolves as a rapper, and everybody change their mind and be like, no, Serena actually can rap like that. That would be cool. But yeah, yeah, Sweetie, both of them. All right, now we have begun. Now it is time. My favorite segment of the night. We're doing another musty deck. And for this musty deck, we are calling it Hey Exes, What's on Your Mind? So I've done these before. I love doing these, by the way, because they're just kind of funny and unserious. But they're just a collection of unhinged thoughts I've had during the past week. I usually do this when there's a lot of shit going on in pop culture during the week. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And right now there is a lot of shit going on. So, and a lot of people are in uproars. So we're gonna get into it, all right? Let's get started. Okay, so the first one. So it's news to me. Like less than 2 days ago, I heard that YouTube is going to roll out new AI-powered technology that basically requires us to submit our IDs in order to be a defense towards what children are exposed to on the internet. And here's the thing. Apparently, and I boxed this in, but this is pieces of the article that I pulled out from Money Watch. If the technology identifies a person as under 18, it will take steps to regulate their content by disabling personalized advertising and limiting repetitive views of certain kinds of content, among other things. If YouTube incorrectly determines someone's age, the user can upload a form of identification to fix the error. So a couple of things. So this article mentions like all the details about the AI powered technology requiring IDs. Now, first things first, I feel like the news, when this news dropped, it was a little bit misleading as to what YouTube is trying to do. Because it seems like they're trying to configure a way genuinely how to censor the internet in some way amongst children, right? And something I will like to call out in this excerpt here is that, it will take extra steps to regulate their content by disabling personalized advertising and limiting repetitive views of certain kind of content. Okay, so this is important because this does happen. Disabling personalized advertising. For Harriet did a very good commentary on this, but there was I don't have names on me right now. But a whistleblower that used to work with Mark Zuckerberg came out and admitted that there were certain tools used to swindle the algorithm of users so that if they're insecure about something, like young girls, for example, if they're insecure about their weight or how they look or what they're like, how they're being perceived in the world, the algorithm will tailor itself for them to be even more insecure. So, for example, if a young teenage girl is insecure about her weight, okay, the algorithm will start tailoring content towards like weight loss and like other skinny, I guess, appraised teenagers, conventionally attractive teenagers, ultimately making them feel more insecure, but then making them like hungry and resonating with said influencers on the internet, right? And this can create a really bad dysmorphia amongst young adults, especially young girls. And then in my own experience, limiting repetitive views of certain kinds of content So when I'm on the internet, right, and especially when I'm on YouTube, and say I watch one content creator who I just don't agree with, like I'm just like, I don't know if I'm a fan of this content. It seems like it's leaning a different way. I don't know back, right? What will happen is that the YouTube algorithm will keep giving me the same type of content over and over again. Like if I watch, like for example, it happened a lot with the femininity content in like 2020, because femininity content, whether you like to admit it or not, it's a pipeline. It's a pipeline to, you know what, right? And it doesn't start that way, because when I first like saw that content, it disguised itself as like feminine hygiene. And like who as a woman or people with vaginas doesn't want to know how to be less musty? Like, don't you want to know how to clear up the mustiness? Don't you want to like know like the extent of how well an item or a tool like Dr. Bronner's can be on your body in combating mustiness? Yes, you do. And it starts there. It does. It really does start as something like as harmless as, you know, hey, we're going to teach you how to be less musty. Slap on that Dr. Bronner's, get in it there with that Dove soap, and then follow up with some EOS lotion. And you're like, you know what? Hell yeah. I'm locked in, right? And then it ends all of a sudden in like some girl with a milkmaid dress telling me what I need to do in order to obtain a high value husband. And then all of a sudden I'm on the wrong side of the internet and I'm seeing shit about Andrew Tate everywhere, right? So I do understand how the algorithm can keep pushing certain type of content depending on what you watch, even if you watch it once, right? And I've talked about this time and time again how I'm not really a fan of the self-help rebrand that a lot of content creators are doing just because they read a couple self-help books in their arsenal, like, right? Like I've talked about that a ton. However, I do appreciate that at least YouTube or social media companies, maybe not, or are acknowledging the harmfulness and curating an algorithm of toxicity based off of a couple videos somebody had watched, or disabling certain advertising in order to ensure that young people and people in general aren't watching insecure or aren't watching content that could make them insecure or aren't looking at advertisements that could make them insecure. You know what I mean? So I do appreciate that. I just think the execution is wrong, because what's going to happen is I don't think this AI device is going to I don't think this AI device is going to do a good job in being able to sift through whether or not someone's legally 18 just by looking at them. Apparently, when you put your credit card information in, say if you sign up for like YouTube Red as a subscription, if you put your credit card info in, they should already, like if they do enough digging and data mining, they should already know how old you are, right? Like, or whose card is it, if this is the card of like a parent, or if this is a card of like, you know, an adult. Like, they should be able to do that, but I guess they don't want to, I guess. I don't know. But, or maybe it requires more work. But honestly, in this new age, like, people are already starting to talk about their disdain with the way the internet is now. We're seeing the internet in less of a positive light. The rose-colored glasses have been taken off. And now what we're starting to see is a lot of people harboring resentment for how the internet has turned out, for how social media has turned out. A lot of people are mean on the internet, child. They are mean. They are mean girls. Like, the amount of people who will just film random, which baffles me, film random people just so that they can post it on TikTok for a moment. Just a moment. Is weird to me. Do you not find that weird? I find that so weird. You don't know these people. It's illegal. There was one girl who posted a video of another girl at Planet Fitness who had a BBL. She had a BBL. And was the BBL pronounced yes? Did it give IMVU? Yes, the baddest of baddest IMVU characters. But is it your business? Is it your business to be filming someone without their consent at the gym, minding their damn business, in order to get a moment on social media? In order to be like, see, ladies, you don't want to look like this girl. You want to look like me, a natural body. A natural body. Y'all, I can do a whole dissertation about where we are with the BBL epidemic. Like, don't get me started. Maybe I'll put it in another musty deck. But y'all went from pro BBL to like anybody who has a BBL or looks like they remotely has a BBL is awful and unworthy of love and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, new version of body shaming. Get into it later. But people are just like awful online now. Like, nobody wants to have fun. You'll post something and be like, I like chocolate. Somebody underneath will be like, well, what about cookies? Why don't you like cookies? Bean soup theory on TikTok. Y'all remember that? If you don't, there was a woman who made a soup that required beans to help with those who menstruate and are trying to increase their iron during that time of the month. So she offered this bean soup recipe. And there were a handful of people underneath her comment section who were like, well, what if I don't like beans? What if I don't like beans? What do I do? Is there anything I can replace with this soup if I don't like beans? If I don't like beans. Not everybody else who's actually interested in this soup because they like beans or they want to increase their iron during the time of the month. But me, the singular person who took the time out of their day, don't know why, just took the time out of their day to watch a recipe on how to make a soup with beans, a vegetable that they do not like. What if I don't like beans? Do you have a substitute? Why isn't there a substitute? I just find it funny how there isn't a substitute. Why isn't there a substitute? There doesn't need to be a substitute because this is a bean soup. If you don't like beans, there are a million other soups out there. Clam chowder, corn chowder, chili, sans beans, chili without the beans, oven roasted vegetable soup, butternut squash soup, lobster bits. There's so many soups out there. Why are you pressed? Why are you pressed about this bean soup not having an alternative without beans? Like, the internet's not fun anymore. Again, I like chocolates. Well, why don't you like cookies? If you don't like cookies, well, you're just a bigot. Like, no, girl, I just like chocolate. We're not talking about cookies right now. Why are you on my platform talking about cookies when I just said I like chocolate? This actually happened to me a long time ago, before we got to Bean Soup Theory, on Facebook, around the time when there were terrorist attacks going on in France. And America was allies to France, so we were over here like with the France flag over our profile. And I think I said something along the lines of something like, we shouldn't take what everybody says on the internet so seriously or get so butthurt because people have opinions on the internet, right? Which, to an extent, I still stand 10 toes down on. Everyone has a right to be opinionated and have their own opinion. And then someone on my Facebook, not Twitter, TikTok didn't exist, so not TikTok, Instagram, especially Twitter, because Twitter's the place where you get most spicy, right? It's Facebook. I don't even know this person. Like, I've had one class with them in college and that's it. Don't really know them like that. Don't know them like that at all. And they're like, yeah, I think that's all nice. That's nice and all, but there are people in France that are being harmed by terrorist attacks. Have a little bit more tact. Be a little bit more considerate. I wasn't even talking about that. Huh? I was just saying, hey, I don't think we should take the opinions of other people on social media so seriously. Yeah, but the terrorist attacks in France, we were not talking about terrorist attacks in France, ma'am. Why? And then furthermore, why is you in my post? If it bothers you, either unfriend, mute, block, or move the fuck on. Like, hello? Like, that's where we're at. Social media isn't fun anymore. On top of social media not being fun in that regard, and people being more volatile, people are always looking for a moment, hence the reason why they just film anybody and everything and overshare a lot on the internet, for better or for worse. More times it's for worse. But like, let's be real. The accessibility to corn has been a lot easier than it was some 10, 20 years ago. Okay, like, let's just call a thing a thing. You can go, it's so easy for a minor to go on Twitter, create an account, and have access to all the corn in the world. And have access to an OF girl. Like, it's really, really easy, right? And so there are some valid concerns about kids on social media and kids on the internet and the content that they consume. Another example is the radicalized red pill content. Your 12-year-old son doesn't have anything in common with a Romani or a Romani immigrant who traffics women, who's doing an MLM scheme to teach men how to become more masculine by making them pay $300 a month for their whack-ass War Room series. I promise you, your 12-year-old doesn't have anything in common with that, and he doesn't need to be listening to that type of shit. That's what the whole series of Adolescence was about. Like, you know, how we fail young boys and how we're still failing young boys, and this like demand for hypermasculinity and woman versus man and woman roles and male roles, you know, like that's, you know what I mean? And being able to platform somebody as awful as an Andrew Tate, you know what I mean? So yeah, there are valid concerns, and all the access to the red pill content. Like, a 12-year-old boy should not give a fuck, a flying fuck, really, respectfully, about woman's true nature when it comes to dating and what a high value man needs to do. Like, a 12-year-old boy does not need to know about that shit. He needs to be playing Fortnite with the homies, playing Marvel Rivals, okay? Like, you know, watching anime, My Hero Academia, getting hyped for the next Spider-Man animated movie. He has nothing in common with these fully grown men feeding you snake oil. Okay? Like, come on. And same for the girls. Because I know there's a bunch of girls out here that are looking at this femininity content being like, I want to get married to a billionaire. I think feminism ruined it for all of us. I don't want any rights. I just want to be taken care of. No one's taking care of you, Kaylee. Like, no one's taking care of you. First of all, you're 12 years old. Your parents should be taking care of you, but no one is going to take care of you. It's all a lie. It's snake oil. They're feeding you a lie. So kids should not have access to that type of stuff. I agree. However, with that in mind, I don't know what the trajectory of my experience on YouTube is going to be. Like, this is like super new. Like, this is big news to me. Like, I didn't know this was actually in full effect, which shows y'all and shows me how much I need to lean into what's going on with a lot of these policies being signed, and a lot of what's going on in the world. It just feels like there's so much chaos everywhere. And usually when there's a lot of chaos like this, where things keep changing on the fly, especially in America, where jobs are being cut, funding is being cut, everything is just in disarray, it makes it easier for people to panic and not worry about the big issues that are right in front of them. And I think one of the biggest issues that we have is this push for regulating the internet. With that in mind, y'all might have to catch me on Twitch and TikTok. I don't know. I don't have 1,000 followers on TikTok, so if you guys want to make that a thing, please follow me on TikTok. Link is in description. But if this comes into full effect and they start asking for my ID, I don't know if I feel safe being on this platform. I very much so would rather move over to Twitch or move over to TikTok. And that just sucks, but it's just what it is. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe they'll see me as an adult and they won't ask for my identification and I have some buying time, but I just don't feel comfortable with giving these platforms my ID of all things. Especially when they're able to track my ID with the card information, or just track who I am with more than enough data that they have for me. and all the data mining that they do. Like, they have more than enough information on me. They don't need my ID. They don't need that. And to be completely honest with y'all, because this is a part of the Children's Internet Protection Act, like, this is like rules that they are putting in place in the name of protecting children, right? I'm just gonna tell y'all, like, this point blank period. A lot of the government, a lot of the Congress that are pushing these laws and saying that they're worried about the censorship or the access that kids have to the internet and the type of stuff that they see online, and so they have this Children's Internet Protection Act to help with that. They do not give a flying fuck or a fat juicy damn about y'all's crotch goblins. They don't give a damn about the kids. They don't give a damn about the youth, the trajectory of the youth in the future. They don't care about that shit. They never have. They never have. And let me expand on that after I take a water break. If they genuinely did give a crap about these kids and the content they consume and the way the algorithm works in keeping people online constantly and not doing anything else with their life, they would have clocked these CEO billionaires a whole lot sooner on what content they are putting on their platforms before they look at us and be like, hey buddy, I'm gonna need to see an ID. Yeah, they would have. They absolutely would have. Okay? Elon's X platform, that's now a cesspool of angsty, non-fuckable men, spicy, unemployment-coded talking points, and corn. Okay? They would have clocked Elon's company, X, a long time ago and been like, listen, bro, there's a corn problem. Either you got one of two things. Okay, either you figure out a way to sift the miners out, or you make the corn less accessible on your platform. Like, because this is out of hand. Okay, and again, I'm pro swipe work over here. You know, there was a demand. Swipe workers are going to give a supply. It's not even necessarily the swipe workers' fault. Stop blaming sex workers. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. There's a demand. There's a demand. They're going to supply. Okay, it's a collaborative effort. All right. If Elon knows that there's more traction when Be Nasty or Miss London busted wide open on Twitter or X or whatever the fuck, right? He's gonna keep them on the platform because people keep engaging with them, whether for degenerate nonsense or not. So that's not on Be Nasty for utilizing the platform the way she needs to, or Miss London, okay? Don't ask me how I know about these women, okay? But I'm just saying, if the government, if Congress, if these institutions actually gave a damn about your kids, a damn about your crotch goblins, they would have looked at the tech CEOs and been like, what are you gonna do to regulate this? We are gonna make it that much harder. We're gonna pull out funding. We're gonna pull out advertisements if you don't do something to correct this. And no, it should not be people giving you their IDs and their information for you to data farm and data mine that much more in order for them to in order for there to be a censorship. There has to be, like, can you tone it down with the corn access? Can you tone it down with the violence access? Can you tone it down with the obviously toxic talking points? Unemployment coded toxic talking points. Can you do that? Yes or no? If not, we're pulling out funding. That's a reason why a lot of those like Fart and Funky and Sneeko got demonetized, because as much as y'all want to scream this is a harm towards freedom of speech. They're harming the right to freedom of speech. No, YouTube's a business and they care about money first. And if they see these people on their platforms that are not making them money, that are keeping people away from their platforms, they're going to nuke them, because at the end of the day, they're not entrepreneurs like that. Their boss is still YouTube. You know what I mean? So I want to end this slide and this like new strategy to censor children by talking about something more serious called, that I like to call the what about the children isms. That's not a word, I know, but let me cook, okay? Because in the past decade or so, I have seen a heavy push for the what about the children isms on social media, online, on news stations, you know, everywhere, right? And this isn't anything new. 10, 20 years ago, they were doing the what about the childrenisms with video games and the violence in video games, and, you know, Gen X parents wanting to crack down. Gen X and boomer parents wanting to crack down on like GTA 5, or GTA 5 wasn't out back then, but Grand Theft Auto and these first person shooter games because they were making kids more violent, you know? And really, they're not making kids more violent, okay? Like, society is making kids more violent, and you not actually checking in with your children is making your kids more violent, all right? Not GTA 5, okay? Not GTA. Not Halo, all right? I promise you. But that was a what about the childrenisms back then. 10, 20 years ago before that, there was like in the 80s, like the Satanic Panic with D&D. And what about the childrenisms with heavy metal? Going back to the 90s real quick, 90s and 2000s. What about the childrenisms with hip hop? Nelly's tip drill, where he slid the credit card down the girl's butt cheeks, and I don't like that our children are listening to this content. And it's like, all right, well, Rebecca, turn off the TV and tell your kid that they're not allowed to watch that, because Nelly isn't supposed to raise your child. He isn't. He's not, like, you know what I mean? But like that, again, like I'm saying, the what about the childrenisms have been running rampant for years. It's a great campaign. It's a clever campaign because it shifts the blame from us being worried about our own well-being and people who look like us, or other adults' well-being, because at the end of the day, we don't really give a shit about other adults. We don't care about other adults as much as we do care about children, okay? And minors not being harmed, and children not being harmed. And so what I've seen in political campaigns, in talking points, even in some video essays, even in like, you know, TikTok yappers who just want to talk around in circles all day, right? Is that they will always, one way or another, reference back to the what about the children, or talking about the children in a way where we need to be quote unquote concerned. And 9 times out of 10, they will never give a solution. Good example, Sephora girls. Remember that? Sephora girls and the drunk elephant? And how everybody and their mama, like, what was it, 2 years ago, was acting like they were concerned for Gen Alpha for putting on clean girl makeup and smearing drunk elephant products on their face. You guys remember that? I remember that. The North remembers. The North remembers. Okay? And I remember a bunch of like 22 to 25-year-olds y'all are acting, I'm sorry, but y'all are acting like you were concerned with people my age, acting like they were concerned about the mental well-being of these young girls, smearing drunk elephant and Dior lip gloss all over their face, like they weren't young once and wanted to act way growner than they actually were. Like I wasn't young once and wanted to act way grown than I actually was. Like I wasn't young once smearing makeup all over my face. And it was very weird the way the arguments would break down, because you could tell that the people who were talking about it didn't really have enough experience, or didn't have enough empathy for the conversation they were having, because they would say, oh, well, if you're 14 and 15, I don't see anything wrong with wearing makeup and putting it on. I don't see anything wrong with that. Like, you're a teenager. But when you're 12 or 13, man, that's like 3 years apart. What are you talking about? Like, granted, maybe wearing a full face bead at 12 years old is a little weird. Like, because you're 12 and your face is still developing in hormones and shit. But, like, that's like a 3-year difference, man. ma'am. Like, what are you actually upset about or concerned about? Do you actually care about the kids? And do you actually care about the young girls using drug elephant that could possibly harm their skin and is way overpriced? Or do you just care about getting a relevant talking point out there to boost yourself in the algorithm? Do you actually care about the censorship of children and how many children do have access to the internet? Or do you only care if those same children are engaging with your, or do you still care if those same children are engaging with your content, even though you know it might not be appropriate for them? I always make it very clear that if you're not over the age of 18, you really shouldn't be here, because this channel is rated B for bad bitches. I'm not trying to pander. I'm not trying to, I don't know, be like nightmare fuel for children, Cocomelon coded, right? Someone explain to me why Elsa Gate is still on YouTube if we're trying to protect children, even though isn't Elsa Gate where Elsa gets pregnant by Spider-Man and gives birth to He-Man or some shit like that? Like, the what about the children campaign is so timeless and so clever, because we are constantly asking ourselves, if we're not going to care about each other, can we care about the babies that don't even have a chance on this world, that didn't ask to be here, right? But they always use that campaign to hide behind something more nefarious. And I think over the past few years or so, with, you know, the way things are going right now, economically, mentally, I've been hearing a lot of like moral panics using the children campaign, standing in a child's place. What about the kids? What about them? All of that crap, right? People calling out somebody who has just a natural curvier body and being like, you need to cover that up. If you're not, going as far as saying, if you're not going to cover that up, I'm going to think that you're preying on young kids if you're around them or in their environment. Weird talking points, again, unemployment coded conversations about like the poster girl dress. Remember that little like stripper dress, right? And if it's okay to wear to Applebee's, if it's okay to wear the poster girl dress to Applebee's because there's children there. And are you not being a PDF file if you're wearing a poster girl dress to Applebee's? Are you not being a PDF file if you're wearing a thong bikini out on the beach? Are you, yeah, you see, and my thing, what I'm trying to say here is that it was never about the fucking kids. It's always a code, or it's always a shield to hide from the fact that you have problems with the issue, and you know that no one's gonna listen to you if you just directly say, I have a problem with this issue. I have a problem with girls walking around in G-strings at the beach. I don't like that. I don't think it's inappropriate. No one's gonna listen to that, because everyone's gonna turn around to you, a fully grown adult, and be like, mind your business. But if you say, I have an issue with women walking around in G-strings at the beach because kids are there and they have to see that and families are there, and I just might think that those women are doing that for attention and they are in fact PDF files, not factoring in that different beaches have different rules and regulations, different countries see, you know, their body in different ways that like American and Western culture and purity culture doesn't see it as. You know, the what about the children arguments are always to defend people's insecurities or people's own personal agendas with what's going on in the world today. And I think with the Children's Internet Protection Act, this is like the magnum opus of the what about the children rhetoric, because they are trying to come to us by saying that they're worried about the censorship of kids. That's how it starts. We're worried about the censorship of kids. That's why we're requiring IDs from people. But it's going to end with them ultimately censoring the information on the internet. All types of information. And that I am not okay with, because that could very easily mean that we live in a world where we don't know what's going on in the other side of the world. We don't know what's going on in other countries because of the internet. It's so easy for us to combat against what's going on with Israel and Gaza and Iran and the Palestinians. It's so easy for us to do that now. Very easy, because Israel was dumb enough, which is not like, I don't know why they would do this, but like they were dumb enough to post them bombing Palestinians. As if like we were gonna be on their side. No, if you're gonna be treacherous, you should hide that shit, right? Like, no, but it's free Palestine over here and F Israel, okay? Like, high key, okay? But this is all a push to try to regulate the media that we consume on the internet. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it's been a long time coming that something like this has happened. Not that I agree with it. I think it's a horrible idea. I think if anything, the internet should be the one place where you get access to all different types of information. Unbiased, biased, whatever. You get access to that info, right? And if you take that away, it can get very harmful and very dangerous, and it can create an environment where people are more swayed by propaganda. Because now we're living in a day and age where, like, for example, we're in a war with Israel, or we're trying to be Israel's allies, and we're in a war with Iran. World War III has started, high key, okay? And people are not sipping the Kool-Aid. People are not buying it. People are not okay with another war happening. We're like sitting here confused as to why we need to go to war with another country when we already have shit of our own to deal with. There's a lot of disarray in this country specifically. There's just a lot of disarray and a lot of tension going on because we're finally seeing things for what they are, because we have access to so much information on the internet. We're able to see how other countries view us. We're able to see how, oh my God, the terrorist of 9/11. It wasn't Saddam Hussein. It was, oh my God, I forgot his name. I'm gonna look it up. Give me a minute. It was not Saddam Hussein. It was somebody. Al Qaeda. Who ran Al Qaeda? Osama bin Laden. Right? Like, people are reading letters from Osama bin Laden and starting to side with him and be like, well, no, he has a point. America wasn't okay. Like, they have access to those things now. They're able to make executive decisions based off of like information that they've had on the internet. And if you don't have access to that anymore, or there's regulation on how you get access to that internet, or who gets access to what information, it can get very harmful. And it starts with a lot of these social media platforms requiring us to give our ID information to try and regulate us, to try and see what we're looking at on the media, on social media, to try and spoon feed us the type of information we should be seeing versus the type of information they don't want us to see, to develop some sort of propaganda. I know everybody's freaking out about Project 2025, but Project Esther is going to be more worrisome if we live in, and more feasible if we live in an environment where the internet is so heavily regulated that people are okay with whatever Israel is doing to Iran. Right? Like, that's what I'm worried about. The internet makes it easier for people to create sound decisions on what's going on in the world today, and people get to see all that information from different sides of the world. They're not just seeing a bias of like, oh, what does America feel about Iran? What does Iraq feel about Iran? How does Iraq feel about Iran? What's like, we can look up what's going on in Africa and their politics, what's going on in Brazil and their politics, what's going on in China and their politics. And this like internet regulation thing that they're trying to do makes it that much harder for us to find that information. And keeps us in a mindset where we are controlled and easily manipulated. So I'm not on board for this. And I feel like no matter what side you are on politically, you probably shouldn't be on board with this either. This is like the ultimate, like, free speech, like, fuck free speech. Like, this is the ultimate form of violating freedom of speech. and they're doing it in the nefarious way of arguing about the concerns of kids. When if they actually were worried about kids, they would have clocked and unfunded or defunded a lot of these social media platforms a long time ago. You know? I'm also not surprised that they would move into something like this and like try to convince people to get on board with this as well, because we have an anti-intellectualism problem on the internet. People are just saying whatever the hell they want. And it used to be, if you say some crazy, weird, wacky conspiracy theory mess, you know, you get clocked for it. People are like, okay, girl, whatever. Like that, they're just crazy. Like, just move them to the side. You know, they need to sit on someone's couch. Nowadays, and I think again, this is because a lot of the institutions that we've known and trusted in are failing us. Nowadays, people will scratch their head and be like, well, wait, let me hear them out. Wait a minute, maybe the Earth is flat. Maybe I'll join some Earth is flat forums. Maybe I'll read some flat earther books and then end up at a flat earth convention and be a strong advocate for flat earth, and then 5 years from now I'm a Nazi. Like, that's how it starts. But yeah, anyway, not a fan of this, not okay with this, very, very worried. Y'all should be too. Speak to your Congress people, I guess, because this is not okay. Or you can, one of two things could happen. You could speak to your Congress people, or you could just let this happen and move to social media platforms that don't require your ID, and let these platforms that do suffer. And maybe these companies will learn not to be playing in our faces. Maybe they'll learn. Maybe they'll learn. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. So this is the hashtag FFFFFF. That's 7 F's. I'm going to throw one more F in there. This is the hashtag FFFFFF woman that I wanted to talk about, okay? Because she's back in the news again, and people are mad. And I thought I'd have a conversation, okay? And I really want to start off the conversation about what's happening with Sweeney with, why do y'all care about this? Because if you don't know, Sydney did a commercial with American Eagle where I guess she hinted at eugenics, right? Like, yeah, she's hinting at eugenics, where she's saying that she has good genes, like a play on the words of like, you know, she's wearing jeans, but she also has good genes because she has blonde hair and blue eyes, and she mentions how she has blonde hair and blue eyes and that makes her genes good. Side note, I now finally see how like being blonde is like white people's colorism, like that, like black people have light skin, right? And then like the darker you are, the harder it is. I thoroughly believe that white people's colorism is the blonde hair, blue eye conversation. Like, if the closer you are to being born blonde hair and blue eyed naturally, the easier time you'll have as a white person. I don't know. I just like the way, because the way y'all be talking about that shit, the way y'all went off on TikTok for like about 2 weeks talking about how difficult it is because you're blonde or you're brunette, you know, or you know how you used to be a natural blonde when you were younger, and then as you got older, your blonde became more mousy, and now you have mousy brown hair, and how you reminisce on the time when you used to be blonde, and then just realizing that some people aren't even naturally blonde, they dye their hair that color in order to be like, I don't know, more appeasing. Girl, I don't know. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing, honey, and you know, girl, I guess, like, girl, I guess. That's all I gotta say, right? But Sweeney is in this commercial, and she's talking about her jeans, and she's talking about how she has good jeans because she's wearing really nice jeans, but she also has blonde hair and blue eyes, and she's talking about how that's a big deal, I guess, and people are referring this to eugenics and are worried that this is propaganda. If you are wondering if this is propaganda or not, yes, it probably is. But once again, I do ask y'all, why do y'all actually care about this? And I'm going to explain why. First of all, what propaganda tends to do, and what is especially happening now, and what I've seen happen in the past 3 to 5 years, is that it will satirize or make jokes of things that they actually want you to believe. And so, is this like a low-key eugenics campaign? Well, I don't. Probably, if you look into it that way, right? But also a part of me is just like, maybe it is about genes. that's my devil's advocate brain, but yeah, probably, sure. All right. This is trolling, and it's working because a lot of people on the internet are up in arms and outraged about Sydney Sweeney talking about her blonde-haired blue eyes and talking about her blue jeans and equating it to both things. Shit, I have a bug. And people are concerned, they're worried, they're upset that we are reaching like full-blown alt-rightism with this singular commercial. If you think this singular commercial was the pipeline to full-blown alt-rightism, I'm here to tell you that you're living under a rock, because we've been there. Like, for the past 4 or 5 years, there has been a heavy push to alt-rightism. And I promise you, Sydney Sweeney in blue jeans for an American Eagle campaign isn't going to be the be-all and end-all for alt-rightism. Like that's been happening for a while, okay? But like, this is what they want you to do, right? They want you to engage with this stuff. I need people to understand, like, on both sides, if I can be a devil's advocate, a spicy little devil's advocate real quickly, that on both sides, they really don't give a shit about us. Okay? They don't. Okay? I can see why people vote Democrat. I vote Democrat because at this point, it's like defending yourself against sanity or insanity, right? Because whatever the hell is going on over there on the other side is crazy. Okay, like they are so far gone. They are tolerating all types of whack shit, all types of bigotry, racism, like anti-Semitism is at an all-time high, and all the other isms are just as bad. The way they're really trying to brainwash women into just staying at home, cooking and cleaning and being barefoot and pregnant. The way that they are trying to brainwash young boys into portraying this like toxic version of masculinity. The way that they're pushing back on gender roles because trans people just said, hey, we exist and we kind of want rights. We just want to have a bathroom to poop in, right? Like, it's getting a little scary, but we've already been, like, we've been here, okay? This is just trolling. It's not funny trolling, it's just kind of annoying. And if you reacted to this campaign, congratulations, you took the bait, because that's what you want. They want you to do. They want you talking about this. Left wants you to talk about this and be outraged, convince you to vote blue, even though, let's be honest, the Democrats aren't going to do much else either. And the right, they think this is a win because they're owning the libs, you know? So, like, at the end of the day, who fucking cares? Like, I don't care about this. I don't care about this campaign. I don't really care much for Sydney Sweeney. I remember I talked about her previously because of her Sasquatch campaign, where she had her bath water in the Sasquatch soap, which I don't think is true. And I mentioned how a lot of the girly pops were angry at her because her campaign was pandering to the male gaze of men who would not like her if she was ever seen in a light as being unfuckable. You know what I mean? A good example is she was doing that boxing movie, which I don't know if she's still doing it, and or if it's gonna be promoted or released. And a bunch of these same men who hyped her up for showing her boobs on SNL said that she was ugly and disgusting because she gained weight and method acted for this role. You know, I'm not surprised. Not surprised. Okay, it is what it is. That the shit happens. All right, that's what happens when you pander to men, unfortunately. But like, the women were like genuinely upset that she was pandering to these men. Okay, and they didn't like the fact that she was selling bath water with Sasquatch as a campaign. And my whole argument wasn't so much that she was selling bathwater and that she was pandering to a male gaze that is exploiting her. My whole issue was, her pandering into swipe work practices and probably discarding of it when she moves to a different level in her career. You know what I mean? Where like actual swipe workers get harmed and are persecuted for doing that type of stuff. That was my whole argument. I could care less whether or not she pandered to the male gaze, because at the end of the day, no matter what you're doing, like men, like if it has a hole, men will fuck it. Like, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. And I'm not gonna be mad at Sydney Sweeney or Sabrina Carpenter for leveraging that concept. I will say though, I am confused with how she's advertising herself, because I really thought she was gonna walk into Margot Robbie's footsteps. I thought that was gonna be a thing, like she was just gonna walk into like being like a young Margot Robbie of some sort, where she would take on like more sexually appealing roles, and then later on she'd have a breakout role like I, Tonya, and then start taking on more serious roles and have like some sort of ownership over the media that she comes out with, or the movies that she produces, and go from there. And just with a bunch of the brand deals Sydney has done, because it's not just American Eagle. It's not her just talking about her eugenics in American Eagle. It's not her talking about selling or having her bathwater immersed in Sasquatch soap, but like it's her being in this Madame Web movie that was garbage. Her being in like this like weird like low tier any like rom-com movie that did not do that well. When did this movie even come out, and was it even good? Americana? I didn't even know this was a thing. Is this the movie with Hasley? Huh, okay, well, it's her taking on a bunch of movies that don't really make, and brand deals that don't really cement herself as a as a creative, or as a actress, and just taking on anything. That's what sends me. I watched this. This was like a Blumhouse made for streaming movie, Nocturne. This wasn't bad. This was pretty good. I like this movie. And then her doing Euphoria, but like after Euphoria, like for example, Zendaya, like granted, before Zendaya was in Euphoria, she kind of had a lot going for her, but she made a name for herself in fashion, where people were starting to see her more as an adult. And then after Euphoria, she was able to work with like these multi-million box office hits. She's in Dune, and Dune's doing really well. She was Mary Jane in Spider-Man, so she was also in Spider-Man, but she was on the Disney side. She of the franchise. She did that movie Challengers, which was really spicy and sensual, especially for someone like her, but really held her own on a movie like that. She's gonna be in The Odyssey. Like, she's one of the highest paying actresses right now, and I just really thought that Sydney Sweeney's career would pan out that way. Alexa Demai is like this mysterious like femme fatale that's just doing random side quests and pops up every time she wants to promote something, which I think is cool. Jacob Elordi's gonna be in Frankenstein, and I think he's gonna be Frankenstein, which is a crazy hear me out for me, but like, hear me out. I do think Frankenstein is attractive, so I don't know. Let's just the Monsters Unleashed ride. I don't know, something about him being 9 feet tall just does it for me. Okay, like sidebar, weird sidebar, but that's another weird hear me out. But like, Jacob Elordi's doing different stuff too. He was in that Elvis movie with Sofia Capicola. That Sofia Capicola directed. like, they're over here doing like really big deal things, and they're very conscientious about the roles they're taking. They're not just taking anything. You know what I mean? I know people like to say, oh, you know, you got to take what you can get in order to get what you need. And that's true, but I think there comes a point where you don't have to take everything if it just doesn't make sense to who you're trying to be in the future. Like, who you are as an individual, who you're trying to represent yourself as, because it could bite you in the butt, right? Like, we're hee-hee-ha-haing about this, or we're not hee-hee-ha-haing about this, but we're concerned and we're, like, questioning a lot of what she's doing now, I guess. I don't know how this is going to pan out for her 10 years from now. Like, when the pendulum swings more to the left. I don't know what that's going to look like. I think because she is an FFF woman, it'll be easy for her to pivot. But it's just weird. Like, your contemporaries are over here in multi-million blockbuster hits, and you're still over here doing weird shit with American Eagle in order to spark controversy and get us talking about it. And what do we do with that? Like, for me, Sydney Sweeney's a good actress, so like, why isn't she in more critically acclaimed movies? Why is she just doing shit like this? Like, this is just weirdo behavior and weird energy for me. I don't know. In my humblest opinion. But like, that's how I feel about this type of content. I don't really care as much. I don't. It is what it is. It'll be what it be. And yeah, I don't know. So moving on. Okay, so we're gonna do a double whammy wombo combo because I have a lot to say about these two people. All right. I think these two individuals have a lot in common. Okay. Because of some of the things that have been going on in the news about them. For those of y'all who don't know, Shanon Sharp has finally settled his case with the OnlyFans model for a certain amount of money. It's clear that this model has received the money from Shanon. I think she went for like 23 million. She sued Shanon Sharp for assault for like 50 to 23 million, something along the lines of that. And she was able to get a settlement amount for a couple million, obviously enough, because on her Instagram it had said that she is no longer doing S work anymore and that she has retired. So she got the bag, right? She sealed the bag, and she no longer has to be an OF model, I guess. I don't know if that's in the clause of the money that she gets from Shanon Sharp. Like, we don't really know. People are creating narratives based off of things that they hear online. But even if in the clause for the money it says that she has to quit OF, like she cannot do OF ever again, she lucked out because now she does not have to work or do much of anything really and sit on that 23 million for a long time, reinvest that 23 million. Like, she's wealthy off of the back of somebody like a Shanon Sharp. Because he got caught up in a scandal where they were having a race play conversation. And she sued him for SA. Because they were engaging in rough sex, and he did something that she wasn't comfortable with, and she sued him, and she got some money, and she settled. And for those of y'all who are saying, I don't understand why someone would sue their abuser, why wouldn't they put them in jail? Because men like Shanon Sharp just don't go to jail for assaulting women. They don't. Like it should not be rocket science to you in 2025 when we still have an internet where you have access to all types of information. Just like with Diddy, men like Diddy don't go to jail for essaying, spiking drinks, coercing, manipulating, and trafficking women and children. Okay? They don't go to jail for that stuff. They settle because they have the money. That's what they do. They settle. Okay? They get to still walk free, get settlement money, and give settlement money to the victim, and go about their day and continue to wreak havoc because of the amount of money, resources, and power that they have. That's what they do. That's what they do. Someone like a Shanon Sharp isn't going to jail for rape. That's just not going to happen. Unless they're trying to make an example out of him. And in this case, I believe they did, because not only did Shanon Sharp have to give this woman like half of his earnings from what he made at ESPN, I think, or half of his millions, right? But he also got let go from ESPN as well. Got let go from ESPN. ESPN doesn't want to work with him anymore. And I, like, honestly, I'm not surprised. I am not surprised. Okay. ESPN is owned by Disney. Mickey Mouse don't play that shit. Mickey Mouse does not play that shit. Okay. Now, you might be asking Exis, what does Candace Owens have to do with this? Like, what does she have to do with any of this and what's going on? First of all, before I get into the meat and potatoes, I want to say that Candace Owens looks really ashy in this picture, and it's bothering me. And this is what happens when you're the only one amongst a ton of white people, okay? And you get too comfortable being the only one amongst a ton of white folks. Nobody can come in and tell you, hey, ma'am, hey, queen, let's change up the lighting so you look a bit more richer, because she looks very, very ashy right now. She's like the same tone as me, probably, and she looks way too whitewashed. I don't know. That just made me feel uncomfortable. Anyway, moving on. Candace Owens is getting sued as well. She is also getting sued by the First Lady of France for accusing her of being a trans woman. And I think what she was doing is she was accusing the First Lady of France for being a trans woman, but was trying to make an argument that the First Lady of France was grooming. She was grooming a 16-year-old current president now, like then a current president, or like a PDF file towards her husband, which is the president of France. So basically, the president of France was 16 when he met a 39-year-old First Lady of France, and they started a relationship there. And that's fucking weird. Okay, like that's just weird. I don't, age of consent, my ass, like that's just weird. That's gross. That's disgusting. That's grooming. That's not okay. Woman or man, weirdo, weird. Okay. So Candace, I guess, on her show mentions how the First Lady of France looks like a woman, and the First Lady of France comes back with a lawsuit that says, bitch, keep your name out of my motherfucking mouth, basically, more or less. That's what she's saying. And Candace Owens is like, oh, well, I haven't heard of this lawsuit. My lawyer hasn't heard of this lawsuit. I don't believe this is true. You know, I don't know anything about this, blah, 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 blah. And then she like, as she usually does, she like deflects, and she's like, we should be worried about how this First Lady was with a 16-year-old first president of France. Y'all should be worried about that, because that's the talking point. That's the point of contention. That's what y'all should be concerned about, right? To deflect from the fact that she basically not defeminized, but attempted to defeminize the president's wife, the First Lady of France, by calling her trans, as if her being trans invalidates her from womanhood, as if trans women aren't women. Anyway, moving on. And so she's getting sued, right? She's getting sued. We don't know what that lawsuit's gonna look like, but in comparison to Candace Owens getting sued by the First Lady of France and Shanon Sharp getting sued by an OF model, I think there is something that we can learn about people getting too comfortable in the spaces they're in and royally fucking up in the process, right? Like, I think there's something that can be said about that. Like, really messing up and not understanding who you are in the grand scheme of things and how you should be conducting yourself, right? So these two actually have a lot in common because they both are getting sued, or one has already been sued, case has been settled. One is currently getting sued right now for defamation, for trying to accuse a foreign white lady at that in Europe. Like, why are you in Europeans' business, man? Like, is her husband from? I think her husband's from Britain, but it's just weirdo behavior. Like, you're American. I never understood, and this might sound xenophobic, but like, hear me out. I never understood folks from across the pond commentating on American politics. Because it's like, y'all had a queen and still have a queen and a royal palace that y'all's tax dollars go to. I think you should worry about that a little bit more than what's going on here, because what has the royal family done in the past decade or so? You know what I mean? But like, you know, hearing them talk about political stuff going on in America is so odd, because it's like, you don't even go here, like, you don't even have the same diaspora. Like, it's just weirdo behavior. You don't live here, you don't know what it's like. You're across the pond. Why are you here? Why are you here? You know? And I think it's the same with Candace, but in reverse. It's like, you're not from France. You're not European. You haven't lived in Europe. Why are you over there antagonizing those folks? Why are you antagonizing the first lady of France, of all people? Of all people, the first lady of France. Like, it couldn't be some, like, Joe Schmo, some schmuck, some other content creator. You went bold, you went big, and you said the first lady of France. Are you dumb? Right? Like, both of these black folks have been sued by white people. Okay, that's the commonality, right? They have a lot in common. They're talking heads, they're talking figures. Shannon Sharp was on ESPN, and then had his own little show with Chad Ochocinco, his own little podcast with him, and then he had his own like podcast show, which was basically what I like to call had to kill a bug. What I like to call Wendy Williams at the weight set, right? And then Candace Owens was on the Daily Wire, and then she left the Daily Wire to start her own show without them because she pushed back on Israel and what was going on there, and they didn't like that. In that case, to be a little intersectional, I will say Candace Owens is good on pushing back about that, because it's not okay what they did or doing over there, but also at the same time, I feel like the ulterior motives aren't genuine. I feel like the ulterior motives are rooted in anti-Semitism first, before actually caring about what's actually going on in Palestine second. Okay? Anyway, but that's why she got fired. So then she did her own show on her YouTube channel, and she's still doing like press tours, and she's on The Breakfast Club, and she's on Jubilee and arguing with feminists about the sex revolution and women staying at home and cooking and cleaning. And I actually watched the Jubilee argument, or the Jubilee debate, which really isn't a debate. Y'all need to stop watching Jubilee, okay? Y'all need to stop watching Jubilee. They do not pay the talent to debate up against these talking heads. They pay these talking heads who are really there for exposure and entertainment purposes. So you'll go back onto their shows so they can get more traction. And then they don't pay the people who debate them. They're worse than a lot of the talk shows you used to watch growing up. Okay, so y'all need to stop watching. Y'all need to stop watching Jubilee. Okay, they're not as progressive as you think they are. Like, because it is getting to the point where it's like you're debating people who think that other think that other people need to die. Damn, I do not care about YouTube censorship at all. I don't care. But they're literally debating people like white supremacists, okay, who think that they're better and more supreme than other races. With you know, a black empowerment talking head, right? Like, it's just weird, or a leftist. Like, that's not, like, there's no point of view to be heard by a white supremacist. There's no point of view to be heard by an anti-Semitist. Like, come on, like, anyway. Stop watching Jubilee, okay? But she's on Jubilee, and she's talking about how women who don't have children are more likely to drink more and have, like, opioid addictions. Working up the economic ladder is not beneficial for women. They're more fulfilled if they stay at home and they have children. And then every time somebody pulls out, like, hey, so you're working, you're climbing up the economic ladder, you're climbing up your own corporate ladder, you're a business owner, and she's like, oh, well, I get to see my kids, like, early in the morning, and then I work for an hour, and I get to cook dinner for them later on in the afternoon. It's a little different for me. I'm the exception. No. Anyway. Candace Owens on Jubilee was a mess, okay? Because she could not argue her point. She kept saying the 3 or 4 talking points over and over again. Francilla the Queenmaker did eat her up. She did eat her up. I'll give her flowers for that. And there was half of the people on there who just wanted a moment, and then there was other half of the people who were really trying to argue and break her down, who I believe Jubilee, like, flagged them early, or cut out content early so that Candace didn't look too much like an idiot. But anyway, like I said, both of these people have a lot in common. They're both people of color. They both talking heads, entertainment talking heads that got platformed by big established companies and then broke off and did their own thing. And both of them are getting sued by white folks, right? And so with that in mind, I want to talk about what we can learn from these two, because they both got sued. Shanon Sharp got sued by a 19-year-old girl with his 56-year-old self. I forgot to put that in context. 56-year-old self being accused of SA with a 19-year-old girl at 56, almost damn near 60. And, even if this woman was of age and older, right? Like, maybe she was 30. Did not have this woman, like, sign an NDA or anything. Just did not care. Talking all types of nonsense, race play, big black baby type mess to her, right? Candace Owens out here accusing the First Lady of France, not some schmuck, not some influencer, but the first, like, the First Lady of the man who runs the whole country, of being a man, as a smear campaign to defeminize her, right? And I just want to talk about what we can learn from these two, right? What can we learn from both of them? Because there's something to be learned here of people of color, people that look like me, who are the exception, who get to be in these spaces, these white-dominated spaces, who get to thrive, right? They get to thrive in these spaces. They get to do what they want. They get full liberties. They're able to branch off and make a name for themselves, where people support them outside of the industries that they got started in. They're able to kind of make a name for themselves in that regard. And then somehow, some way, these two people have gotten too big for their britches, got a little too comfortable, got a little too sloppy, if you will, and we're literally seeing in real time how it can all crumble before their very eyes. One is already, like, struggling, right? Because a good chunk of his millions have been given away to this 19-year-old girl, as they should, quite frankly. Play stupid games, who win stupid prizes, okay? And he is now removed from ESPN. Again, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. ESPN is owned by Mortimer Mouse himself, okay? Mickey Mortimer Mouse himself. What did you think? They were not going to let a dude, okay? They were not going to let a black dude talking about race play with a 19-year-old girl about some big black babies, and you want this white ass, 19K per cheek. They weren't gonna let you back on ESPN, buddy. Okay, like that just wasn't gonna happen. All right. Candace Owens is about to face a lawsuit with the First Lady of France of all people. First Lady of France. It could have been anybody else in France, but you chose the First Lady. Anyway, what can we learn from these two? Okay? What can we learn? Rule number 1, don't be sloppy. Okay? Do not be sloppy when it comes to being in these spaces. Okay? Just because you get to be in these spaces around a bunch of white folks doesn't mean that like you can move like they do. All right? It doesn't mean that like you can get comfortable, that you can get away with doing things. Even if these spaces outcast you, in this case, Candace Owens had to leave Daily Wire and start on her own and was able to cultivate a following, which is impressive. You still can't be sloppy with what you do and you say. You need a team to sit you down and tell you what you can and can't say and what you can and can't do. Because you could get into a situation where you get loud and wrong on your little platform, on your little independent media platform, right? You get loud and wrong, you accuse people in very significant positions of power of things that aren't true, and then they turn around and do the thing that people in significant positions of power do and sue and try to silence you. You got to be careful with that, especially if you're loud and wrong and you're lying. Okay, so you can't be sloppy. You can't be sloppy in how you portray yourself. She needed a team to tell her, what are you doing? Like, don't say that. But I guess because of who she's interacted with, the name she has made for herself in conservative media, as if in the next 5 to 10 years her career will be disposed of, and they'll find a new Black conservative talking point to lean towards. Like, girl, what are you doing? Don't be sloppy. This is sloppiness. Accusing the First Lady of France of being more or less a man, in more words than none, is sloppy. I know she's saying that, oh, she might be transgendered, but what she's really hinting at, knowing Candace's transphobic ass, is that she's probably a man. That's what she's hinting at, right? Shanon Sharp, okay? Sloppy in who he messes around with. Cat Williams and Monique on the Shanon Sharp podcast warned him about fooling around with girls that aren't his age. Even if the girl was 30, it would be weird, but it wouldn't have been like as creepy as it is, because now you're going in front of the court of public opinion. Okay, you can't be sloppy with who you fool around with, and let your legacy be so and be so lax with your legacy, right? Which leads me to my next point. You need to protect your legacy, okay? You have to protect your legacy. You have to be smarter, okay? It's not even about you not wanting to be sloppy around a bunch of white people because you don't get the same privileges as them. I'm going to get to that. It's about your future. Let's just say Shanon Sharp really didn't do anything wrong, even though we kind of know that he did and he was a creep. In front of the court of public opinion, you playing race play with a tiny 19-year-old white girl does not look good. It doesn't look good to your people that look like you, all right? And it also doesn't look good in front of the white people, okay, that don't look like you, especially the white men. They don't like that, okay? You did not protect your legacy being so lax and lenient and sloppy with fooling around with a 19-year-old girl and then trying to do race play with her via text message, via phone call, instead of meeting her in person and having her sign an NDA. Again, 19-year-old, already creepy, but you not putting in those precautions, even if she was at 19 and she was just like a regular age, like a 30-year-old woman or whatever, you not putting those precautions up so that something like this doesn't happen, Like, come on, because let's say he did not assault her, right? Like, let's just say he did not assault her. He did not do anything weird to her. All right, court of public opinion, you're having freaky race play conversations with a 19-year-old white girl. It's weird. All right, Candace don't got no team. Why don't you have a team for your legacy of a business? You keep talking about how women need to stay at home and take care of the kids and that you're the exception. You're about to be just like everybody else if you're not over here with the team telling you what you should and should not say and what your talking points should and shouldn't be. Because now the First Lady of France is like, hand out money. I need money. And you were dumb enough to yap your mouth and think it was comfortable to talk all types of nonsense about the First Lady of France, of all fucking people. You could have chosen anyone, but you went big. You're not big. You're not big. And that's the thing. That's the thing. A lot of these conservative platforms, they pick one. There can only be one. All right? And before Candace, I do believe it was Tomi Lahren. Tomi Lahren didn't work out. Candace Owens filled the role, right? But as soon as you don't do anything right, as soon as you give them a reason not to fuck with you, they will dispose of you and bring in somebody else. Independent media, my ass. You will be the Nicki Minaj to the next conservative machines Cardi B. Okay? You gotta protect your legacy. You can't just be comfortable and lax and saying whatever you want and not facing those lawsuits. Okay? Okay? Come on. And then finally, this is the most important one. This is the most important because I feel like we need to especially instill this in our black men. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not trying to be like, misandrous. I'm just being honest. Because you do see men like Shannon Sharpe or men that can be in positions that Shannon Sharpe has had get comfortable and think that they can get away with the same shit that white people can. You are not white. You cannot get away with those things. We need to start having more conversations with both, honestly, the Shannon Sharpes and the Candace Owens of the world. All right, the whitewashed people, whitewashed black folks, the whitewashed black girl who's the one only black friend that the white people say, the white friend group uses. I have black friends and it's Candace Owens with the bad silk press, right? And then Shannon Sharpe, who has been able to climb the economic ladder by being a professional football player, a part of an institution that is known for exploiting people of color, has been able to make a name for himself on the football channel talking stations and been able to be an independent creator, but then also thinks that because the white guys can get away with flirting and talking with 19-year-olds that he can do the same thing unscathed. You cannot. You are not white. You are not like them. And what we're seeing right now with the two of them is that you do something to piss them off, they will remind you that you are not like them. You're not like us. You're not like us. Okay? Like, let's just be real here. Okay? You can't get away with moving comfortable like they can. Okay? Because they will let you know really quick that you are not like them. You are not like us. Okay? They will let you know. They will strip everything away from you, especially if they're cutting a fat, juicy check. So, yeah, we need to start telling our black boys that, like, and our black women and the whitewashed ones at least, that, like, when you get into these positions that they are in, you need to keep your head on a swivel. You need to be careful. You can't be sloppy. You need to protect your legacy. And you need to understand your role and who you are. When I say you are not white, it doesn't mean that you are not better than them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you can't do the same things that they can do and get away with it. You cannot. Because they will let you know in a heartbeat. They will let you know in a heartbeat. But okay? That you are not like them, and they will make an example out of you by coming for your coin. The OF model has secured generational wealth for herself in the future. She can do whatever she wants to do. She can start a business. She can go back to school, and she has that money, all that money to sit back on. The First Lady of France can poach Candace for all she has, probably because she has way more money than Candace has ever seen in her life as a First Lady, or way more resources than Candace has ever seen in her life. All right, she can go in, hand out money, defamation, really make an example out of Candace, platform no more. Now she too is a housewife taking care of her kids and not working to prevent herself from having an opioid and alcoholic addiction. Okay, so just in the future, anybody who's watching this on a VOD or whatever, just learn that you cannot be sloppy in these spaces. You must protect your legacy, and you cannot get away with the same things that they can. Okay, you can't. And again, it's not a they're better than us, I'm better than them. It's just how the world works systemically. Okay, you just can't get away with doing problematic, questionable shit and then rebound in the same way that they can. Going back to this really quickly, Sydney Sweeney in 10 years, I can almost guarantee you, is going to do a full rebrand, maybe do an expose about how she was brainwashed by her current husband to be more right-leaning and lean into this, but that's not who she is. And then she gets a blockbuster movie and she's able to recover successfully from all of this. Yes, yes, and everyone will love her again. Candace Owens gets sued by the First Lady of France, and because of the notorious name that she's made for herself, because she has become the head of conservative talking media for people of color, and because it doesn't really seem like she's built a community of people of color to support her in this campaign for conservatism, if the lawsuit ends up taking way more than she's ready to pay, her whole legacy is gone. There's no rebranding. And she's been trying to aggressively rebrand. Absolutely. She's been on the Breakfast Club. She's been on the Joe Budden podcast. She's been in all of these spaces trying to like rebrand herself from what she was on the Daily Wire, and it's just not working. And you do this while broke? No. You really are gonna be like those girls you were talking about in Jubilee. Okay? You will no longer be the exception where you get to be a business owner and you get to raise your kids comfortably. You will just be raising your kids. Learn from this. I want you to learn from this. Don't be like that. Don't be them. If you're a dude, there is no amount of coochie that is worth your legacy. That I promise you. I just like, come on, and I shouldn't have to tell you this, but there is no amount of coochie, amount of pussy that is worth sacrificing your entire legacy. My boyfriend and I were talking about this, and he basically told me flat out, he was like, I don't feel bad for goons. I don't feel bad for gooners. That's what he said. He's like, I don't feel bad for them, especially ones like Shanon. Like, you did what you did. And it's like, you know what, bet. I don't feel bad for them either. Like, you knew what it was, right? Like, now you can be a respectful gooner, right? Or you can do what Shanon does and lose everything, right? I also don't have a lot of respect for yappers. People who yap way too much and keep poking the bear, and when the bear finally rips their face off, they act brand new. I do not have respect for people like that. Learn from this, people. Don't be sloppy, protect your legacy, and you are not white, you are not like them, you are not like us, okay? So you cannot move like them. Shannon Sharpe's co-host could probably fool around with a 19-year-old. The guy from Seinfeld. Hold on a second, I'm trying to look up his name. Leonardo DiCaprio, Jerry Seinfeld all fool around with girls triple their years younger. And they can get away with doing it because, you know, you're white. Black guy does it, especially to a white girl? No. Despite the NFL being like pro-interracial, you know, like, and you thinking that your biggest upgrade socially is dating an unambiguously or an ambiguously black person or a non-black person, still at the end of the day, you are not like them, and they will let you know really quickly, and you need to be careful of that. Okay, you need to be careful. All right, and that's all I got to say about that. That's all I wanted to yap about. Now I'm going to talk about what I'm reading. I'm reading The Children of Blood and Bone. Okay, and I actually really like this book. I read it last year and then I stopped because I was really distracted. Bro, I was stressed for my job. I'm so happy I'm not working there anymore. Like, I missed it because I was finally getting the swing of things. But I don't know. I just, the amount of work that they needed us to do for the pay, and then rationalizing the pay, like, well, this is what you did. No, it's either you get a mature team or you pay us more, because we're doing like 50 jobs here. You know what I mean? So I stopped reading this book due to stress on my job and just like life happening, and I picked this book up again because I am making an effort to read more. I need to read more. It is important that I read more, and I'm encouraging you to read more, okay? So I'm reading Children of Blood and Bone. It's the first book. It's a fantasy book. I don't want to water down the book experience from being like its own, like an African Harry Potter. I really don't want to say that, even though I just did, because I do think because I do think that it holds its own and it's very unique in the fantasy world, and it's important for what it represents. But it is a very, very good book, and I love it. And I am reading it, and I'm having the time of my life. I hear there's a live action series coming out. I don't know what streaming service the live action series is going to be on. I'm always worried about book to show adaptations, especially if they're on Netflix, because Netflix just does a dookie doo-doo garbage job with their shows. Like, they're just really bad with their shows, okay? So I hope that Netflix didn't get a hold of this. Maybe Hulu has better original series, or HBO Max. Maybe they'll get a hold of this. But yeah, this is a good book. It's really fun. It's interesting. I like the lore behind all the characters. I don't want to say any of the names because I don't want to mispronounce them. But more or less, it's a book about those with magic versus those without magic, and kind of the race war in between the two of them. And I think that's very interesting. I like the fantasy element set up. Definitely would recommend reading this book. And I also want to end with the book that I'm reading, that I'm encouraging you all, not, if you guys are going to read, which I hope you're reading, please go read, to find your whimsy and go read a nonfiction book, okay? Please. Or no, whoa. I think I meant go read a fiction book, not a nonfiction book. Excuse me. Nonfiction is historically accurate. Okay, find your whimsy and go read a fiction book, okay? Please, go read a fiction book, okay? Put down the How to Win Friends and Influence People. Put down the 7 highly effective habits of influential people. For the love of God, put down the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The 7 Keys to Success. How we can, just read a fictional book and get immersed in the story, get immersed in the series. Join a book club where you guys are asking interesting questions. Answer those interesting questions on your own time. Read fan fiction for all I care. Read arcane smut for all I care, okay? Like, just read something, okay? You don't have to read factual, informational books on how to get wealthy. You want to know how to get wealthy? You need to be making at least $500K a year. How do you make $500K a year? You might have to be a doctor or a lawyer. Or be an asshole. One of the two. Just read a fiction book. It's okay. Read fantasy, get into fantasy, enjoy it. I heard that there was a book that came out called The Age of Scorpius. This looks like bootleg. Okay, so the cover already Looks like bootleg Arcane. Sorry. And this book has actually been trending all over TikTok because this was the first book that a fantasy writer has written in like 10 years. This is their debut novel after a decade. And the way Book Talk, specifically Fantasy Book Talk, has been eating this book up and saying this book is awful. This book is horrible. I don't know the voice of the characters. I don't know what's going on. I can't continue. This book has 1.77 stars. Like, let's read a review. Would have been a DNF. I don't know what that means, but I made myself finish it because I wanted to give it an honest shot. To say it was poorly written, poorly developed, and poorly edited would be an understatement. She has even misspelled her own made-up words. The characters are especially irksome, all flat and flawless, with the exception of Avia, who is obnoxious, but not nearly as bad as the other characters made her out to be. Kaya comes off like a bully and a busybody for getting involved in Avia and Raika's sister relationship. Though the narrative paints her as a righteous and noble, none of them are likable, and for all the authors talk about the emotions, nothing these characters comes across as earned in any way. Okay, yeah, so this book didn't do too well, but I guess the book was promoted as if it did very, very well, because she put a lot of time and effort into this project. It's been a decade long. And like, here's the thing. I feel like, I haven't read this book, but what I feel like happened is that this concept and this book was her baby. This was her baby, right? Like, she wanted to hold this book near and dear to her heart, right? And what happens when you have a baby is you start seeing it through, you know, a blinding rose-colored glasses lens, and you start to put a lot of effort into your singular baby, and then you don't make any other children, right? You're just focused on this one baby, and you make no other projects. And so you don't know whether or not what you made is good or what you can do better if you're putting all your time and effort into this one singular novel. And maybe if this was like her debut novel and it was, you know, her first work that she self-published and it didn't do that well, and then she came out with a couple of other books that were a little bit more creative, a little bit more stronger, really got her like writing skills, her writing ability, and her voice down, you know, maybe she would have been able to make that one hit. But the problem is that when you put all your effort into one story, you're never going to know how your work stacks up against what you could do, because you're putting so much effort into something that you've worked on for 10 years for one book, you know? So I haven't read this book. I really have no desire to, but that's unfortunate. I'm so sorry. I can't give a 1-star review because I only read the Kindle sample. Always see a sample of the writing before you fork over the cash to a TikTok darling. Unfortunately, the indie fantasy authors, the world building of their books can only be as good as the weakest of their sentences. Cool concept otherwise. Dang. These people are ruthless. Yeah, I feel like if I were an author, I would need to write like 3 or 4 books to really like hone in on my voice. And then my magnum opus would probably, like, I'd have experience, right? Like, I've gone to writers' camps. I know how to write. And so my magnum opus would be, like, really, really good because I have something to stack up against. But if I'm working on, like, one book for 10 years and I'm not working on anything else and I'm not crafting anything else, then it's just like, is this truly good? I don't know. I'm not comparing this up against anything else to work on. So TLDR, for the Age of Scorpius, it's important that you probably have little projects to work on instead of like one big, huge project and putting all your time and effort into that. So, yeah. But anyway, as I was saying, I'm reading Children of Blood and Bone, and it is not like the Age of Scorpius. It's very, very good. Again, it's like a race war of like magic, those who have magic and those who don't. And it's told through the lens of a few different characters all having to deal with this resource of magic, and this power of magic and how they react to it in their lives. Those that have magic intertwined with the royals who are anti-magic, and it's very interesting. It's all African based, and I think that's really cool too. Like I said, if this becomes an original series, I really, really hope it's a good one. Okay, and I hope Netflix doesn't get a hold of it, because every time Netflix gets a hold of something, there's no in between. It's either really, really good or it's just piss poor awful. So, anyway, moving on. Okay, so now I feel like talking about Tyla versus y'all's unrealistic expectations of artists in 2025. Okay, so Tyla has dropped her EP, We Wanna Party, WWP, right? And Tyla's interesting, right? Because when she first came out, she's the girl who did the water song, and she was doing the little booty dance, right? And everybody was doing it too. And POV, doing the water dance in front of my boyfriend on TikTok, and the boyfriend would like cover them up. And I don't know, that wasn't the flex that I think a lot of girls wanted that to be. But anyway, what I noticed about the whole Tyla debacle is when she first came out, there was some controversy she got into. One of the first ones is her calling herself colored and her not calling herself like black or mixed race or any of that. And the reason why she called herself colored is because over there in South Africa, there is black, white, and then the biracial people who aren't just strictly biracial. They also have other cultures mixed in them too, Indian, all of that. They're called colored, okay? And so that's what she aligns herself with as a South African. And a lot of people didn't like that. A lot of Black Americans didn't like that concept, that she wanted to call herself colored and she didn't want to just sit in either being Black or biracial. So already she was rubbing American audiences the wrong way. Then Tyla started to win some awards where she was being put in the same spaces as other Black R&B artists, and people were saying, well, if she doesn't even identify as being Black, why is she even being put on this space if she's identifying herself as colored? Personally, I never really had an issue with that. I never had an issue with the colored conversation, right? I think as a Black American myself, being annoyed at the fact that a South African woman that has been born and raised in South Africa identifies as a race that South Africans have deemed her, that she hasn't been deemed. Because from what I understand, the colored people over there are like, they were discriminated against at some point. It's not like her being colored shows that she has privilege. You know what I mean? Right? Like, that's what they would identify her as, an other for the Black people in South Africa versus the white people in South Africa. She was the other, right? Like, she couldn't fit in, right? And they have their own unique diaspora with that me as a Black American don't really have any business dibbling and dabbling my hands into or having such a strong opinion towards. Afrobeats also leans more to the R&B side because a lot of Africans that were born in Africa and then some that are born in America lean towards Afrobeats. So literal African Americans and then actual Africans listen to Afrobeat music, right? And so if they're listening to Afrobeat music and Tyla is making Afrobeat music, and that's like a Black oriented or African oriented sound that just so happens to have a lot of Black people consuming it, I also don't see anything wrong with her taking up the Afrobeat space in that regard either. I like the idea that she has come up with the Popiano sound. It's the Ampiano South African sound mixed with pop. I think that's really cool. I also noticed that she got into controversies of being called an industry plant. And I'm gonna say this again. Oh, crap, what happened there? And I'm gonna say this again. Tyla isn't an industry plant. I knew about Tyla since 2018. And they were already in talks back then of Tyla taking Rihanna's spot. Like, I remember Impressive did a video about her, this girl named Tyla. They're looking at her to take Rihanna's spot. And even in the interview, she said, you know, I am influenced by Tyla or Rihanna. I'm very influenced by her attitude. You know, I'm very inspired by her, all of that, right? But I feel like outside of those things, which are some controversies, a lot of y'all have been putting a lot of pressure on Miss Tyla to kind of have this debut similar to Beyonce or Rihanna in like the early 2000s. And this isn't just Tyla, right? And we'll get into it. This is also a lot of the other pop girls as well, that are dealing with this, where we're shrouded by nostalgia. We miss the era of a healthy music rollout from a lot of our favorite artists. We miss the era of seeing Rihanna go from, you know, the Beyonce brand, right, where she's looking like a lot similar to Beyonce in her SOS and Pon de Replay era, into her good girl gone bad era, where she cuts all her hair, does the side swoop, and is umbrella, you know what I mean? Like we are shrouded by those moments when we were younger and when our favorite artists had an era and were doing healthy rollouts, versus now where the music industry is a lot different, and the landscape of artists and how we notice them and how we you know, how they get put on is significantly different as well. This is news to me, but apparently we don't have a song of the summer this year. Like all the other years beforehand, we had a song of the summer. I think last year it was Espresso. This year we don't have any songs of the summer at all. None. And people are making guesses on what could be the song of the summer. But the reason why that is because, you know, streaming. And again, this goes back to music looking a lot different than what it did 4 or 5 years ago. Streaming has changed the landscape significantly on music, and a lot of these labels are looking at these artists through a streaming lens. And so they are looking at their artists not just to succeed the next body of work that they've done, but they're looking at their artists to do big numbers as well on their streams also. So they could be creating quality bodies of work in their music, and if it's not hitting enough streams, they'll shelve them. You know what I mean? Like that's just kind of what it is, you know? And people are already used to their biases, right? So like if you're already listening to, I don't know, Rihanna, and you're listening to her whole discography consistently, then you're probably not rocking with Tyla like that. Like you don't want to hear Tyla, you want to hear all Rihanna and Rihanna oriented music. If you are listening to Beyonce, then you're probably not wanting to listen to Chloe Bailey. You know what I mean? If you're too busy listening to Taylor Swift on repeat or Nicki Minaj on repeat, you might not take a chance and discover other women or other rappers or singers. You know what I mean? Because of how established they are in the industry right now, and because they have that loyal, diehard fan base that will keep listening to them, that will keep streaming their music in the name of supporting their artists. So the music industry now is a lot different than what it used to be, and it's not as easy as it once, or I wouldn't say easy, but it's a lot different in that radio play just isn't enough anymore. You're going up against streaming services that more or less can buy, if a singer or an artist or a label has enough money, can buy their relevancy. And then like, you know, the streaming might go up when they have a rollout coming, right? And the song and the album drops, and then the streaming might go down after the rollout has ended. You know what I mean? And so I don't think it's fair for y'all to be unnecessarily hard on artists like Tyla, because they're not coming out in the same way that you want Beyonce in the same way that you've seen Beyonce and Rihanna and all the other pop girls come out as. I just don't think that's fair to Tyla, at least. And not just Tyla, but a lot of other pop girlies. You know what I mean? It's not 2005. 20 years has passed. It's 2025. We're doing things differently now. I think what's happening is people are getting discovered 4, 5, 10 years after the fact. Like Doechii, for example. Everyone wants to call Doechii an industry plant, but she was out in 2020 dropping music. She was on YouTube dropping music. She wasn't an industry plant. She just got a push. You know what I mean? And that's different from someone like an Ice Spice who really did get like she was plucked and planted into the industry, right? Like a seed that was planted. Like she wasn't making any music before the year like 2020. Like she was not really in the cut like that, right? And you know, going into the other Black pop girlies that have come out and the Black pop girlies that really haven't gotten the chances that they deserve as of lately. And I'm talking about these up here. SZA we're going to talk about in a minute. But we don't have a lot of Black pop girls. And I know Tyla's colored, so maybe she doesn't deserve to be in this conversation. Doja Cat is biracial. Just by the way she's moving, she's biracial. Don't argue with your mother. She's biracial. Tinashe, to me, more leans in on her blackness. Like, she's very comfortable in her blackness. But Doja is not, therefore she will stay as biracial. So she's not in this conversation. But even unambiguous Black girls like Victoria Monet, Normani, and Chloe Bailey, and even SZA, but mostly Victoria Monet, Normani, and Chloe Bailey, like they're not, it just feels like they're not getting the push that they deserve. That they're not getting the push that they need in order to cement themselves. Like it's that much harder for them to put themselves out there and, you know, have a team that can really roll stuff out for them. I think because of the way music has changed, and I think because the industry is just it's problematic, right? Like these girls have to be super talented and then some. They have to be super talented and then some. And their white counterparts just get to be mediocre. Gracie Abrams just gets to be mid. Benson Boone just gets to scream in a microphone. Some of y'all's fave singers get to hold a glittery guitar and prance around and sparkly leotards and sell out stadiums. Like, it just doesn't seem fair, but I think this is the industry's attempt at preventing, like, another Black pop girlie from getting super big in the way that our Rihannas, our Nicki Minaj's, and our Beyonce's did of yesteryear. You know what I mean? And that's unfortunate. Tinashe is very, very sad for me because y'all be stealing Tinashe's content all the time. You'd be stealing Tinashe's swag. You'd be stealing Tinashe's songs, her music video ideas. You just be stealing everything from her, especially K-pop. If we can talk about it, y'all be stealing her shit, and then you do not give her flowers. You do not put her on these features with these songs. You do not have her work with these artists. You just steal. I hate that. And she's super talented, and she's been talented since 2010. She had to break away from her label in order to make the music that she wanted to, and she sounds phenomenal now. And that just sucks for her because she deserves so much more. Victoria Monet is also a very consistent and talented artist who also deserves a lot more too. And same with Chloe Bailey. Like, I was listening to FYS earlier today, and that song isn't that bad. Like, none of their music is that bad. But I think it's a mixture of how hard the industry is on them, and I also think it's a mixture of how hard we are on them as the talent that they are. And how they don't get a lot of grace. How everyone's expecting them to be the next big girl and come out the woodworks swinging, right? Mind you, a lot of them don't have the teams or support to do so. they're always seen in like a microscopic lens of like making sure that they're doing the right thing at the right time. Like when Chloe Bailey was experimenting with her sexuality, a lot of y'all were very mad and upset that she was quote unquote doing too much, but she's like an early 20 some odd girl and she's supposed to do the absolute most, you know. A lot of hate was on Victoria Monet when she won a Grammy, even though her music was good, and Put It On My Mama did well. Y'all barely gave Normani a chance at all, even though she was dealing with a bunch of family life problems. But y'all will eat up whatever the hell Tate McRae's doing. And then Tinashe, y'all just don't vibe with her. Like, y'all just don't like her. For whatever reason, you don't like, even though you're asking, where is the next pop girl? Where is the next big black pop girl? Where is she? And she's right there. You just don't want to hype her up. You think she's too mid. And while we're on the discussion, I don't understand why SZA still is considered like R&B. Like, that's confusing me. Even though she's doing very well, her music is selling very well, her tours are selling out. Why is she still considered R&B? Why is she not yet considered a pop artist? Because she's selling out stadiums. And her music is like always #1 on the charts. And she carries every single song that she's on. She's a pop artist. Kill Bill is a pop song. That's not an R&B song. I feel like there is an active effort to keep black pop girlies out of that space. And I just don't like it. And I feel like, even though Tyla is colored, or she identifies as colored, I feel like that trickles down into Tyla as well, and the hate that she gets, because I don't know, it's just like they don't want to see another girl win. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's just my opinion. But moving on, while I was listening, or while I was working on this deck, I was listening to this song by Thames called Crazy Things, and I liked it. And I just want to talk about how good it is, and I think you all should listen to it too. I like Thames. I like what she represents. I like that her body is like a body and it's not like physically altered in any way that we know of. You know what I mean? And I also like that she is authentically just herself. You know what I mean? Like, she's just herself. She makes really good music. And I don't know, I just really rock with the song. So I think you guys should listen to it. And I don't know, maybe for Tyla, what she needs to do is she just needs to have her song like more on the radios, I guess. Because I remember when she had that song with WizKid, that song, I remember that song was on the radio all the time in Atlanta, like playing constantly over and over again. And now she's like this big like international star. And so maybe that's what Tyla needs. I don't know. But honestly, Thames is kind of killing it right now. So I like Thames. I like her. I like her tone. I like her voice. I like her music. We support Thames over here. And I also like Iris Star too. So you guys should listen to Iris Star. Iris Star is so pretty. Yeah, she's really pretty. Yeah, I like Iris Star. Y'all need to listen to her too. She's a fun time. Alright, anyway. Yeah. Moving on. Okay, this is an artist I really like and I think you should too. They're called Yves Tumor. And they're like, their music is like experimental rock, industrial, and hip hop, like a coagulation of all of that. I've been listening to them since 2020 and I like their music a lot. And I think you need to be listening to them as well because they make really good music. So I really want to get their vinyl because that's how much I kind of resonate with their music. It's very interesting to me. I don't know. I've never seen like an artist for an artist's sake who's so experimental and willing to break boundaries by how good of a musician they are. You know what I mean? Or just a producer that they are. And so yes, I like Yves Tumor. I've listened to Ebony Eye recently from their latest album. I still have to listen to the rest of their album, but I have listened to, let me put my web camera up. I have listened to, what's it called? Yves Tumor. Heaven to a Tortured Mind. So I have listened to that. And then I forgot about them. I was like, where have they been? Like, what's the name of this album? What's the name of this band that I really like? And then I realized that they were still making music. And then I realized that he came out with this latest album called Praise the Lord Who Chews But Which Does Not Consume. Rocking with this. And like, he gets good ratings because they're very good at what they do. But yeah, I'm rocking with Yves Tumor very heavy, and I think you should do the same as well. Polish up your music tastes. Listen to Yves Tumor. Yes. All right, and then finally, I'm gonna end this very quickly, and then I'm probably gonna get into this game. But Marvel Rivals has a new character coming out, and it's Blade. Okay, and I hear that he's gonna be a DPS tank, and I've been trying to get more versatile in my roles on Marvel Rivals, so I'm not just being a strategist. I want to get into being a duelist, and then eventually maybe I'll play tank if I feel like it. But I should probably learn how to play tank. But yeah, I like Blade. He looks really cool. I hear that he's going to be a tanky duelist, which is always nice. I'm excited to see how he works. I feel like he's going to be more exciting to play than Jean Grey. I don't know, when Jean Grey came out, I didn't see a lot of people wanting to play her. And I think it's a couple things. I think because she's hard to learn. Like, you have to know how to aim if you're trying to play Jean Grey. And then also, her costume sucks. Like, that costume just looks ugly. They need to work on that costume. But, like, Blade and his costume looks cool. Like, this is a pretty cool costume, I'm not gonna lie. And I like the tattoo, and I don't know. It felt like Jean Grey's costume gave AI, and it felt like Blade's costume gave, like, originality. You know what I mean? Like, they just asked ChatGPT, hey, what looks like a costume Jean Grey would wear? And they spit something out for them. You know what I mean? But Blade's costume looks pretty cool. I like his sword in the background. I like the glasses. And I'm excited to play him. Hopefully he's fun. Are those like sword guns? That's cool. But yeah, excited for Blade. Can't wait to see him in Marvel Rivals. Maybe I'll play him. Maybe he'll be easy to get into. Maybe he won't. But I also like this picture of him giving Jeff a fade. I think that's cute. And I think that was from an original artist. It was from it was from this artist. I don't know. I need this as a profile picture of some sort. This is super cute. But yeah. Excited to play Marvel Rivals, and speaking of which, I'm going to start playing right now. Yeah, but that's all that's on my mind for today. Don't really have much else. Wait, whoa. Before we get into Marvel Rivals real quickly, I gotta talk about my schedule. So let me open up Steam and then we'll talk about my schedule. Okay, so my new schedule on Saturdays and Sundays, I'm gonna be online from 10:30 p.m. EST for Saturdays and Sundays, shooting for like 2 to 3 hours ultimate goal is 4 hours, but we're gonna see how I fare with just 2 to 3 hours. But yeah, Saturdays and Sundays is my new goal now that I am fun employed. That's what I'm calling it. I am going through a fun employment phase in my life. I love that for me, but that's the new schedule, and I am going to stick to it. So anybody who is asking questions, hey Exis, what time are you gonna be on? That's the time I'm gonna be on. So you're cute. Hopefully I can play this game. Last time I wasn't able to, but yeah. Okay. Last time I wasn't able to because they were preparing. I don't know what that means. That's so interesting because I was able to play this game just fine a couple of weeks ago. If I'm not able to play Marvel Rivals, I might just wrap things up now, but I gotta figure out how to get this together. Hold on 1 second. Marvel Rivals won't load up? Huh? What did you say? Yeah, I turned off my camera and I turned off my mic.
So what's it saying?
It just says preparing. It's not loading or anything.
Open up Steam real fast. Exit out of that and open up Steam. Scroll up. And go scroll down again. Alright, press play. Actually, I don't know what's going wrong with your thing. Maybe you gotta relaunch Steam.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, try to relaunch Steam.
page. It's not on this account. It's not on my other one.
What do you mean this account?
Like this create stuff account. On my play stuff account, it plays, but I also have the icon on the dashboard. So I don't know what's going on.
Do you have it still up on the other account? That could be it. Like, do you have your other account, like, do you ever turn off your computer completely?
Yeah. I've turned off my computer a couple of times.
It might be running on the other account still, maybe.
Well, it's not running. I turned off Steam. I don't even sign in through Steam. I just click the icon on the desktop.
No, I'm saying, like, on the other, like, login.
I'm not logged in over there.
I'm just saying it might be a thing. You could also try this. Watch, where's the Marvel Rivals icon? Is it somewhere around here?
No. I have to go through Steam and get it.
Okay, well, we can do this. What's your Steam icon? You can do run as administrator to prioritize all the tasks. You could uninstall it and pull it back in. It should be fast if it doesn't work. If not, you probably just have to restart your computer, to be honest. Yeah, you probably just have to restart your computer.
Okay, well, I'm gonna end my screen here then.
Yeah.
Alright.
Has it been doing that to you like multiple times?
No, this is the second time. And I've restarted my computer a lot since then. So, I don't know what's going on. Alright, I'm gonna go on. Alright guys, so it looks like Marvel Rivals isn't working, so I'm actually going to end this stream here. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will keep the VOD up on YouTube if you'd like to watch it. And stay tuned for what I decide to do, where I decide to post in the future if YouTube does go ahead and continue on with this ID thing. I don't feel comfortable with them asking for my ID. And so I'm not gonna lie to you, if they're gonna ask my account for an ID, I'll probably put an update on TikTok and let y'all know and then move accordingly. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night, and I will see you around the same time tomorrow. Take care, guys. Bye.